everyone, Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com On3. Now with On3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football, Pete Nakos, Jamie Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there. Sign up today.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world.
For the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday. Glad to have you along, and joined now by the great Jamie Shaw, one of the great national basketball recruiting analysts for On3. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com On3. Subscribe now before you miss out on all this information coming out on a daily basis. And Jamie is one of the guys that makes this happen. Jamie, and there's a lot going on right now, not just for Indiana, but just everywhere. So I would not want to be you or any of the other Joe or any of the other guys there trying to keep up with this, because this is it's maddening at this point.
Man, Jim, I'm sitting here listening to those commercials. I saw a distillery that had the cinnamon vodka and the coconut rum, and it's like
Hard truth, baby.
I'll tell you, man, the transfer portal makes that a very appealing commercial with all the stuff that's going on there. But yeah, no, it's a very, very a lot of moving parts throughout the country. Things happen very quickly. Things happen quietly. Things happen loudly. And things happening in every level. And also too, we're getting into AAU basketball. We're getting into the final 2025 rankings coming up.
Please don't mention that. Please don't mention that. I was wanting to pretend that things might slow down.
It's a year-round process now.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately I'm aware of that, but I like to lie to myself sometimes.
No, exactly. So we're starting to get in. Fortunately, they pushed the first live period back to May this year, so might have a couple of weeks in between the portal closing on the 22nd and the first live period, but then it just gets right back going for the next couple months.
Indiana here is they've been making. Hey, I put out a poster right before they landed Lamar Wilkerson that said, it's early and there's plenty of time. No need to worry, but it is time for Darian DeVries to start winning a recruiting battle. You have to win a recruiting battle. And then, bam, he wins one that I quite don't know that I expected him to win, getting Lamar Wilkerson over Kentucky, which was definitely a surprise to Kentucky fans and those guys, and probably to a lot of Indiana people, to be honest with you, because when he took that Kentucky visit, then canceled the Auburn visit, it kind of said, oh, okay, you see how this is going to lay out, but not so fast, my friend.
Well, and coming, it sounds like talking to people around the recruitment that he actually came from behind of that. Kentucky did have some momentum. Kentucky had some confidence coming in. And in the final hours, DeVries came in and won the recruiting battle of a coveted player, somebody that a lot of teams need. I mean, 44% from three last year, career 40% shooter from three. And he did it against high major players or high major teams as well. 19 against Baylor, 18 on Indiana. He had 15 on Pittsburgh, knocking down multiple threes in all those games too. So a true floor spacer that you can win a battle with, that provides spacing with the team, that was a very good win and something that he came in and Indiana fans should be very excited about.
Yeah, he actually closed the deal after the visit. He flew back out to see Lamar Wilkerson, and apparently that made a huge impact. He made comments to that effect. He also said, and this is not a knock on Kentucky, you could say this about a lot of places, but I didn't want to go to Kentucky and just be another guy. And he seemed to have an understanding that, Indiana is a traditional power, but they have not been a traditional power, and any Indiana fans should acknowledge that. I can definitely tell you that, because everyone knows that. But there's still a power. Don't confuse winning of late for the other. And he seems to be of the mindset of wanting to help Indiana get back to that. So having that winning type of attitude, that's going to win fans over. And then since he has committed, we have seen multiple commitments this week.
Oh, for sure. So, coming in, it's funny how that can happen, how you get a little bit of momentum and then all of a sudden it builds on itself and things get rolling pretty good. Now, all of a sudden you're starting to see, I remember last time we talked, now you're starting to see kind of a semblance as to what this roster could end up looking like.
Absolutely. And I always wonder, and I mentioned this, and you talk to these guys a lot more than I get the opportunity to, but like Indiana, it was kind of a blank canvas. Kentucky, you kind of know what you had as far as the team makeup, and that Lamar Wilkerson knew who was what. So he can definitely look at Indiana and say, well, more chances for playing minutes right there automatically. And of course, a coach can say that because he's not lying either. Who else is he going to give him to at that moment for certain? But he is a difference maker. He's a guy that played against Indiana. He's played inside the Scott Assembly Hall, very coveted. And he said he felt like that he was the priority, and Indiana made him feel that way. Now they've got to put that on the court and bring that together. But they've got more guys they've got to add. Indiana's got to land some bigs. Although Josiah Miles, Tayton Connerway, other great additions, Indiana is going to be such a departure for what fans have seen for a decade in Indiana, because a school that has been one of the shootingest schools in the history of college basketball for a decade it's like they went into the dumpster and forgot how to do it. That's going to turn, because the offenses is going to be predicated more so on that type of game.
Well, looking at a guy like a Tayton Connerway, he's the type of guy that elevates the floor of a team. He's a strong physical player. He heats up the point of attack, and he won the Sun Belt Player of the Year last year off of winning plays. You look at his numbers, and it's like, he averaged 14 a game, shot sub 30 from three, and all that stuff. But he still won the Conference Player of the Year because he made winning plays, and he won it all elevating the floor of the team. He's got positional size, and he defends at the point of attack. So he's somebody that I think Indiana fans will come to love, because it's kind of a throwback type of guy to the old school type of ways that they had on the team. And then you added Josiah Miles, who can just go score the ball. I mean, he had 11 against South Carolina, 14 against Nebraska, 18 against Georgia Tech, 13 against Florida. He's a guy who just, as a sophomore with positional size, knows how to put the ball in the basket. So whether the role's off the bench, whether the role's, where he comes in at, he's somebody who can put numbers on the board. Both of those guys are very, very big pieces to the overall picture as to what's being built here. Obviously, you get 5 starters. You probably get about 8 or 9 in the rotation. And as we talked last time, you want to build the baseline as to what this rotation looks like and then build upon that. Well, with the guys they brought in, they have a pretty solid look at the rotation with Lamar, with Tayton, with Josiah, with Tucker, with Reed, Connor Enright. All these guys are guys who have won previously, put up numbers, and have familiarity with what's going on.
Yeah, and now we're seeing this transformation of the program and the style that they're going to play or should be expecting. The bigs that they're going to have to incorporate into this. I almost hate to call them bigs anymore, although they are big. They're no longer their traditional. Unless you're at Purdue, you're not going to have a traditional 5 probably. But there are guys that Indiana is chasing, guys like Alex Chaikin, Eddie Lampkin, among others. That Elijah Freeman, that I get he's more of a power wing or whatever you'd call it. There's not even such thing as a power forward anymore in college basketball, is there?
Yeah, well, it's fluid.
It's a stretch four, right?
About 5 or 6 years ago, Brad Stevens, formerly Butler, now at Boston Celtics, he said that he doesn't recruit positionally anymore, point guards, shooting guards, small forwards. He recruits guards, bigs, and wings. Those are the three positions, and everything's fluid. You want to have, a lot of people want to have 5 guys on the floor who can make a play with the ball in their hands. I was talking with Todd Golden during this NCAA tournament run. How did you put together? What were you looking for when you were piecing together this roster? He said, I wanted to be able to put 5 guys on the floor who could make a play with the ball in his hands. And that's kind of the direction that a lot of basketball is going in these days. You want positional size, you want versatility, you want length, but you want guys who could make a decision with the ball. These guys that you mentioned, Eddie Lampkin, he's got experience in the game. Alex Chaikin, one of the most prolific shooters in college basketball last year, 47% from at Lafayette last year at 6'5". He's a late bloomer. You got a guy like Duke Brennan, whom you mentioned previously, big, strong, physical guy. He had 10 double-doubles last year, 10 and 9, 64% from the field. Now, he's kind of a throwback big, a kind of a throwback type of post, a guy that you can put on the block, but he sets big screens. He does the physical things. He rotates well on defense and all that type of stuff. Elijah Freeman, whom you mentioned, now he's got huge upside. 6'8", 6'7", kind of a wing, 45% from three last year, 18 points at D2 Lincoln Memorial, 8 rebounds. He's just chock full of upside with his positional size and length at 6'7", 6'8". These are some really intriguing names that you're able to kind of chase now, that you're able to spend a little bit of time on, that you have, the 6 guys that they have in tow already. Plus, I guess, Trent Sisley as a freshman, the guys that you already have, you're able to chase these big name guys to kind of fill in the holes and continue to elevate the ceiling of the team.
Yeah, and I think that you're going to see the bulk of this team is built around a Trent Sisley, a Tucker DeVries type of player. These guys that are pretty versatile. They're in that 2 to 4 range. They could go from playing the 2 all the way down to the 4, and which is kind of unique. But you get a 6'8" guy that can handle the ball well enough, can shoot the ball well enough, but that can go inside, take an elbow to the head or give an elbow to the head and score or grab a rebound. I think that's going to be the core of this team, to be honest with you, because they'll be able to do so many things. Not that a lethal 3-point shooter is not just as important. Hell yeah, they are. And whoever the 5 ends up being, but that's the type of core that I think that this offense is going to be centered around.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing across the landscape of, it started off in the NBA, and I think it's trickling down to the college game as to more of this, pro style type offenses where there's flexibility and versatility within the lineup.
Any of the other names that are popping that you've seen that are just moving around? I know that there's a lot going on. What's the biggest news that's popping right now, the latest in college basketball? Guys are moving everywhere.
Well, I think a big thing that people are looking at is guys that are going into the transfer portal without eligibility left. Hoping that the waiver, hoping that the waiver comes through. The NCAA has before a rule coming out that there's a possibility of 5 years to play 4. There's a possibility of a waiver coming through and all that stuff. So with April 22nd being the close date of the transfer portal, you have a whole bunch of guys that are going into the portal. Isaiah Swope went in yesterday, who Indiana fans might be familiar with, that have played 4 years of college basketball. And then, seeing, in the hopes that waiver comes through. So there's a possibility that, if, these guys that are entering the portal, they don't get traction currently, but another wave could hit if the option comes through. The 5th-year guys are able to get an extra year of eligibility left.
Yeah, Ed asking of an update on Luke Goody. No, there is no update right now. I don't know. I go back and forth on whether I think he'll end up getting it or not. Normally I would say, oh yeah, easy. Just sue the NCAA and do one. But he played at the end of the season that he's trying to get back. And that may be if there's any way for the NCAA to win anything, it might be that. We'll see. To be honest with you, I don't know that it's a big deal or not anymore for if Luke Goody comes back. I mean, he already is probably the 5th best shooter on the team. And that's not a knock on Luke Goody. It's just what they're being able to add here, without question. Other teams in the Big Ten, Michigan, Dusty May did not screw around. He went out and took care of business and picked up some pieces. And the same can be said for Matt Painter at Purdue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You saw a lot of activity early, obviously with Dusty May coming in. They get the number 1 player in the portal with Axel Lindenberg. Picked up the big 7'3" skilled guy from UCLA. That I think what he was able to do last season with the 2 bigs, playing both Vlad Golden and the Yale transfer on the court at the same time, giving Danny Wolf the freedom to kind of create and an opportunity to play a little bit of a unique style, I think really opened the eyes of a lot of big men, traditional big men who have ball skills. Lindenberg and Ade Mora are both guys that have ball skills, that have the ability to make a play with the ball in their hand. So it's going to be very interesting to see if that was lightning in a bottle last year with both Golden and Wolf, or, how they're able to kind of build on that. And then Purdue just got guy from North Florida yesterday, Liam Murphy. One of the better shooters in the portal, 40% guy who shot 7 attempts per game, quick release, started off in the Ivy League as well. Big time shooter, big time stroke on him. Not much else around in his game, but he averaged 13 a game just off of shooting threes, off of 7 a game. That'll be interesting to see how he's able to space the floor alongside Oscar Clough, the big guy who comes in. One of the best players in college basketball last year. When it comes to player efficiency, when it comes to his ability to score the ball, rebounding percentage and all that. It'll be interesting to see how they mix those 2 guys in with Braden Smith and Kaufman Wren, as well as what they're bringing in. But both teams have been very active. Both teams have very intriguing additions to their rosters. That'll be fun to watch as to how, Big Ten basketball, they were a sleeper conference last year. Didn't get much notoriety starting off, and then all of a sudden, toward the end of the season, it's like, oh wow, these guys can really play. And then they got however many they got into the NCAA tournament, and a couple of them made runs and all that. So it'll be very fun to watch. I
noticed that
at the top.
Notice Mackenzie Mbako, one of the former Indiana transfers, looks to possibly heading. North Carolina State viewed as a top contender for him. He's already been to North Carolina State. Sounds like he's visited Texas A&M on Monday and had a planned visit to Ole Miss on Thursday, which Ole Miss has kind of been making some hay with Chris Beard as well.
Yeah, for sure. Mbako's one of those guys, former McDonald's All-American. Don't know that he ever really found the right rhythm under Mike Woodson there, and looking for a new opportunity. And as you would imagine, he's a coveted asset of a guy with positional size and length who can theoretically shoot and bring some stuff to the table. It'll be interesting how that plays out. NC State did get a lot of traction there. Chris Beard, though, he's one that you can't sleep on when it comes to recruiting battles.
We just won, I think. AJ Storr came over from I don't know where he was. I can't keep track of these guys that have played for 4 schools anymore.
St. John's, Wisconsin, Kansas, now Ole Miss.
Elijah Freeman, I mentioned him earlier. He was at Indiana a couple of weeks ago, and when you have a guy on campus and a couple of weeks have gone by, I don't know how good you start feeling about yourself. He visited Auburn this past weekend. He's got a visit to Tennessee coming up on Wednesday. That's a lot of time in between visits, and unless Darian DeVries gets on a plane again and finds wherever Elijah Freeman is and lands in his front yard.
Yeah, so the recruitments these days, especially out of the transfer portal, are very different from what they were even 1 year, 2 years ago. Timing of the visit, typically you want to get the last visit. That's traditionally how it's kind of been. These days, it's all kind of part of the process as to when you position yourself. Obviously, you don't want to have the guy leave campus without committing, But it's all part of the process, the longevity. I do know that Tennessee does have a little bit of confidence there, but when it comes to the overall process, again, as I say, when you have these agents involved and everything, there's negotiations that are happening and everything with that. The length behind a visit isn't necessarily as big of a tell this year, this cycle, as it has been traditionally in the past.
Yeah, and I look at Indiana, Brian pointing out Indiana's current full roster, which is Tucker DeVries, Trent Sisley, Reed Bailey, Connor Enright, Lamar Wilkerson, Josiah Miles, and Dayton Connerway, which that gives you 7 guys. You're only going to go about 9 deep. I won't count Trent Sisley on there just yet as an incoming freshman. That's too much pressure to put on a guy. All these other guys are freaking veterans. So definitely. And with the order of that you're kind of getting, you quickly start to look at, well, these are the guys that are probably going to be playing, and you're up. And I'd have to go back and look at Darian DeVries' past record on his rotations, how deep he actually goes. Most teams are not going deeper than 9 guys, but it depends. If you're a team that gets up and down the floor nonstop, maybe you do go 10 deep. I don't know. But 9 is probably 10 in the early part of the season, but as the season progresses, that starts to shrink. They're getting close, just maybe 2 or 3 more players, and I would think Indiana would have its core set.
I 100% agree with you. It's kind of a little bit of what we were saying earlier. Is now we're kind of having an understanding as to what this team is going to look like. There's a baseline of talent, of guys, like you said, have experience, of guys who have started Division I games before, of guys who have put up stats at the Division I level already. With those 6 guys that they have that are coming in, you can get a feeling as to what the rotation is going to look like and how they're going to play, along with the versatility. You have Reed Bailey, who can make a play with the ball in his hands. You have Lamar Wilkerson, who can shoot the ball. Connor Enright, who's been DeVries' point guard previously at Drake. Obviously, DeVries' son, shoot the ball. He's got a lot of experience. Josiah Miles can score. Dayton Connerway can really defend. So you're starting to get an understanding as to what this kind of team, the core, the very bare bones of this team is going to look like. And now it's all about adding a couple of pieces here and there, like you mentioned, to kind of patchwork the remaining pieces of the roster. But this is starting to make the looks of a pretty intriguing roster.
I cannot wait. Make sure you're keeping up with everything Jamie Shaw does, because if he's putting it out, it's important, first of all, and you're going to want to read it. That's at the On3, and you can always find that at thehoosier.com with On3. They've got the special going right now. It's just $1 for the first month, 50% for the rest of the year. On3 is the source for all breaking news now. They are the ones, whether it's Jamie Shaw, Joe Tipton, the Nackos, that's where it's coming from, baby. Great job, by the way, guys.
Jim, I really appreciate it. Again, I want to reiterate how excited we are to have y'all on board here. Indiana fan base is a rabid fan base, one of the best ones around, and cannot wait to see, especially under Signetti, what it looks like during football season. I'm kind of going to be looking from afar as to how the fan base starts reacting during football season and what that looks like.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting because there's never been interest in spring football. I mean, it's like, I'm sorry, what? Oh, they are? Okay. I didn't know they were practicing. That's good. Good for them. Good for them. But no, it's not the case anymore. And I agree with you. Looking forward to appreciate you very much, first of all, for taking the time to join us as always. And looking forward to doing it again, man. We appreciate you so much.
Jim, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You betcha. Jamie Shaw from On3 joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Man, that is a litany of information for you, peeps. Tomorrow, there's more coming. It doesn't stop. Todd Leary joins us, of course. Zach Osterman, the IU beat writer from the Indy Star, recently named the United States Basketball Writers Association Beat Writer of the Year. I got to write that back down. I forget, so I remind he wasn't able to be on with us last week. So I will write that down to congratulate him tomorrow, who will be with us. Also, Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. And we will have a complete recap of tonight's spring game. Myself and Coach Shannon Griffith will have that for you. So plenty of stuff. Yes, John, the stuff. We've got it. Whether it's at Indiana Sports Beat Radio or the Hoosier.com, your news source for breaking news, all information. Go to the Hoosier.com and subscribe. They need you so they can continue to put out the content. They are doing an incredible job. It's the amount of stories coming out per day. It's crazy. And there is not a breaking story that On3 is not pumping out, baby. So be a part of it. Appreciate you. Hello, everyone. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com On3. Now with On3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football, Pete Nakos, J.B. Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there. Sign up today. It's been a fun day as always. Cannot thank our friends enough. Bob Kravitz for joining us. Chris Denary as the Pacers prepare for the playoffs on Saturday. If you're going to that, enjoy it as well. Probably going to rain, but take an umbrella. Don, I appreciate you. Let's see. And yeah, we'll have Shannon on probably tomorrow with our recap of tonight's spring game, which takes place at 8:00. And we'll have a post-game show. If you're want to catch that, you're certainly most welcome to do so. You can find that on Indiana Sports Beat YouTube channel. So go there and subscribe. Hit the notifications toggle so you don't miss a thing. Big thanks to each and every one of you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.